Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm your host, Jordan DeLugo, and this just in from ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not releasing wide receiver Christian Kirk. I should say slot receiver Christian Kirk. They are trading Christian Kirk for a 2026 seventh round pick to their division rivals, the Houston Texans. Unbelievable. Now, we did talk about this yesterday when the news broke that the Jaguars were going to release Christian Kirk. I said a lot of times when teams are reported to plan to release a player, they're kind of dangling it out there to see if anybody wants to bite, if anybody wants to trade a late round pick. And funnily enough, the team that bit was the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans will acquire Christian Kirk, and for the Texans, this is a solid move overall. I think that obviously you have to acquire the cap hit that comes along with Christian Kirk, but he's only under contract for one more year. The Texans are in a situation where they're trying to push their chips in. They feel like they're in a window. Whether they are in a window or not remains to be seen. Obviously, last year didn't quite go the way they planned. They made some changes on the coaching staff. They're going to make some changes on the offensive line, and they're making changes to the receiver core. And part of this is the fact that Tank Dell just underwent ACL surgery. He suffered a major injury late in the season. Tank Dell did. So Tank Dell was their primary slot weapon. Really good player. Complimenting Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs is also set to be a free agent. I don't know that they're going to be interested in bringing him back. So Christian Kirk now looks like the number 2 passing game option for the Houston Texans. And you don't often see a trade between the Texans and Jaguars or any division rivals in the AFC South of quite this magnitude. Obviously, the Texans aren't giving up much, and the Jaguars are simply moving on from a player that they were going to release anyways. So maybe it's a win-win for both sides. If Christian Kirk can stay healthy, do I think he could be a good target for CJ Stroud from the slot? Yeah. And, yesterday I said we'll be pulling for Christian Kirk wherever he lands. The nature of the business is we will not be pulling for Christian Kirk where he has landed in Houston, Texas. That is unbelievable. And what's really funny about this one, and I guess Diana Rossini of The Athletic was the first one to be on this. The pick that is going to Jacksonville in 2026 originally belonged to none other than the Los Angeles Rams. So James Gladstone, he gets his pick back from 2026 for a 7th round pick there. That is funny. This deal will become official on March 12th. So from a cap perspective, it's not going to impact anything because free agency, in essence, starts on March 10th, right? It does. You don't put pen to paper until March 12th, which is when pen to paper will also be put together for this deal between the Jaguars and the Texans. So this isn't going to limit the Jaguars' ability to use the cap space that they were going to acquire from moving on from Christian Kirk, right? That's not really how this one works. And you look at the cap space the Jaguars are acquiring, over $10 million in cap space by trading Christian Kirk. That is huge. That's huge for this football team. It gives them a lot of added flexibility. Mitch Morse retired earlier today. Brandon Sheriff likely to move on. So when you look at Christian Kirk's contract, the Jaguars, by trading him, according to overthecap.com, will save $10.4 million in cap space. So they're getting close to that $50 million number in cap space. Before moving on from Kirk, they were right under $38 million. Now they'll be a little over $48 million in cap space. I don't expect that to be the only move for the Jaguars, but what a stunner. It's not entirely shocking that a team that feels like they're in a window, that feels like they need a slot receiver, wants to go pursue a trade for Christian Kirk, giving up a late round pick, future late round pick. That's not the shocking part. What's shocking is that it's the Texans, that the Jaguars, if Christian Kirk is healthy next year, are going to be facing Christian Kirk twice. And so, yeah, he's going to have added motivation to go out there and get the job done against the Jaguars. Now, look, this is also a team that paid him extraordinarily well for his services. The Jaguars are, right? And when healthy, Christian Kirk was a good player for the Jaguars. He just wasn't healthy much the last 2 years. So the Texans are hoping they get the healthy version of Christian Kirk who can perform at his best. And at his best, what does Christian Kirk provide you? He provides, again, a almost exclusively slot receiver who is a crisp route runner, exceeds on two-way goes, exceeds on slot fades, deep overs. He's really good at sitting in the soft spot against zone coverages as well. I think he's a technical route runner. I think he plays with a good amount of physicality as a receiver. I don't think he's like a great blocker by any stretch of the imagination. He's not a big contested catch guy, but he has the ability to get open from the slot to provide a target. And I think he'll complement Nico Collins fairly well. I think CJ Stroud will enjoy working with Christian Kirk as long as he's able to stay healthy. But from the Jaguars' perspective, this doesn't change anything from what we talked about yesterday. It just means you add a extra 7th round pick to the 2026 draft. You're adding more draft capital, which doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use that 7th round pick, but you can leverage that pick for the future. The Jaguars, I think, have 20 picks, now 21 picks over the next 2 years. So they're going to be looking to leverage those picks in any way they can to try to upgrade this roster over the next couple of years and get themselves in a position where they feel like they can compete for the big one. And there's a lot of veteran receivers the Jaguars could be connected to. Chris Godwin, will he hit free agency? It certainly looks like that's a strong possibility, but the Buccaneers are going to do their best to keep him in Tampa. Cooper Kupp, available via trade, could be released potentially if he's not traded, right? Both of those guys have connections to Liam Cohen. Cooper Kupp also has connections to James Gladstone. Devontae Adams set to be a free agent. We don't know where he's going to want to go. You hear, people talking about, oh, he's going to follow Rodgers. Oh, he's going to go to the West Coast. We don't know. Devontae Adams could very well end up a Jaguar. You have no idea how this is going to end up playing out. But I do think regardless of who it ends up being, the Jaguars will pursue a veteran receiver. And if they are not able to land a veteran receiver that they feel like is maybe not a true number one, but at least a high quality number two, you should expect them to address that in the draft fairly early on. I certainly think that. So really appreciate y'all tuning in. Jacksonville Jaguars trading Christian Kirk to the Houston Texans for a 2026 7th round pick. Pretty unbelievable stuff. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.